simultani prijevod koji je oprema nek se opskrbi ovdje.
Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 10. Utaraga Parakuradha Manara Manopashataha Bhagavadhyana Tapasa Pujana Paramandataha. Being free from attachment, fear and anger. Being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me. Many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus now I attain transcendental love for me. And this is an important point. Krishna's Krishna is making the point that this process of Krishna consciousness is not something new, it's not an experiment. It's proven that it's been working in the past, and many thousands and millions of people have practiced it and become successful. So it's possible. It's achievable. And for us, it's also important to know that it's achievable, that you can practice Krishna consciousness and achieve perfection in one lifetime. Perfection means transcendental love for Krishna or going back to Godhead. Same thing. And even in our movement is referring to the movement as begun in New York. It's the same movement that Krishna is talking about, but it's the same movement of Lord Chaitanya, it's the same movement that Krishna explained to Brahma. It's the eternal Sanatana Dharma. It works in the past, it works in the present, it works in the future. And unless we see that people are actually becoming free from, as described here, attachment, fear, and anger. If we don't see that, then we may have doubts, but as long as we see that it's working, that's attractive. You see that. It's like when devotees go chanting out in the public. It's very important because it gives a chance to those who are not yet devotees to experience people that are either attained highest stage or are on the path of attaining the highest stage. You get to experience that by association. And then they, by association, just like when a piece of wood, all wood has fire inside, but it's not manifest. But when a piece of wood that doesn't have fire associates with a piece of wood that has fire, then its fire comes out also. Nityasudha Krishna Prema Sadhaka Bhanai Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta Kore Yodaya. It's the nature of all living entities. They have love for Krishna inside. It's innate. It's everyone's nature. It's not artificial. It's not something separate that needs to be added. It's like you don't need to add fire to wood. It has wood, it has fire. Just put it in the association of another piece of wood that's on fire. Therefore the association of devotees is essential, because then the innate, original love of Krishna, that you said of Krishna Prema, comes out automatically. And so it's a success, it's a victory. Whenever we see a devotee achieve success, success can also be calculated how he ends this chapter of his life, because that's the final examination. If he's taking shelter of Krishna, that's success. Even if there's some lapse in between. It's like Ajamil. Ajamil started off in a good Brahmin's family. He got some good training. But then he fell down due to materialistic association. And for the rest of his life, which was almost all of his life, he was in Maya. But then, because he chanted the name of his son, Narayan, at the time of chanted the name of Narayan at the time of his departure from this world, he achieved success. Ante Narayana Smriti. At the last stage, if one can remember Narayan, that's success. The preparation is during this life, how we prepare ourselves for that final test. There's a saying, Bengali saying, Sadham Kore, Bhajan Kore, that all your practice, all your spiritual practices, all your sadhana, all your bhajans, your worship, it's very nice, but it'll be tested at the time of your death. It's like a parrot. You can teach a parrot to chant Hare Krishna. Has any of you ever done that? Yeah, it's possible you can teach them to chant. But they don't really, their chanting is not very deep. Because when the cat comes, and the cat grabs the parrot doesn't chant Hare Krishna. He just squawks. He didn't understand it, it was just something, it was like a cinema song for him. He was chanting, but he didn't understand it. But at the time of leaving this body, that's the test. What one thinks of. Yam yam vapi, smaram bhavam, chajachantet kalevaram, tam tam evaiti kaunteya sadatat bhava bhavat. Whatever one thinks of at the time of giving up this body, to that state he will attain without fear. So there's different ways of looking at this. Someone may say it's not fair if someone practices Krishna consciousness their whole life and then at the end they forget Krishna, they forget to chant. Why should they lose their whole life's benefit? Yes, they don't lose their whole life. Whatever advancement they made, that's always there. If they made 80% advancement and they continue their next life 81%, so there's no loss. But Krishna also doesn't force someone. It's not forced that one has to. When one begins the path, say one's on the path of devotional service, but they may want to slow down, they don't want to go too fast. Maybe they don't want to. It's like Bhagavad Gita describes that those who perform some devotional service, but yoga-brashto vijayate, they don't complete it in this life. Then they go to the heavenly planets, where they enjoy for a long time sense gratification. And then they continue. They take birth again on earth in a good family, either Brahmin family or Kshatriya or Vaishya family. And they continue where they left off. And then there's another verse after that says, if one performs more devotional service, in other words, the person that made more advancement, he still didn't complete it in that lifetime. And he takes his next birth in the family of devotees. And from that position, he's born in a devotee family. It's a very good opportunity to achieve perfection. So there's different options. One can complete it in one lifetime, go back to Godhead, or go to the heavenly planets after this life, and continue next birth. Or one can take his next. It's like one devotee. He had just gotten initiated by Srila Prabhupada, and soon afterwards he died in a car accident. And we wrote to Prabhupada, told him, and he said that it was a promotion from Krishna. It was not an accident. Krishna had given him a promotion. And because he had taken shelter of Krishna, his next birth would be in a good devotee's family, or he would continue with his devotional service. It's a science. In the scriptures we find that Narad Muni and other transcendental sages, they actually experience the people from giving up their body in one situation, then they go to another planet. And it's the same person, but it's in a different situation. And then sometimes Narad Muni comes back down to earth, and he's speaking to the relatives, to the sons. And they ask, "Where's my father now?" And Narad Muni says, "Yes, I was just with your father in Indraloka." So it appears to people on earth that he died and he doesn't exist. Now he's dead. And they have doubts. But for those who can go to the different planetary systems and can identify this is the same person, then it's not just theoretical. Once we're taking it as a great mysterious thing, is there life after death? As if death is such a thing that finishes everything. It's like, is there life after sleep? If someone didn't know, if someone was ignorant, and they saw a sleeping person, they say, he's finished. There's no more. Look at him. He doesn't recognize me, he's not seeing, he's not speaking. He's finished. He'll never open his eyes again, he'll never speak again. Look, he's not thinking. I'm asking him questions, he's not answering. Someone says, "Oh, wait a few hours. He'll come back again." So only the ignorant would think, well, sleep is the end. Well, after a few hours, he resumes his consciousness. Or if a person gets in a coma, come out of a coma. So this death is not the end. We think it's the end because we're foolish. We think we're not sure. Even if you try to explain to a person, and after giving up this body, the soul, they say, yeah, I believe in the soul and I believe in, but how can I be sure that when I give up this body, how can I be sure that we don't see the life anymore? How much can you see with your blunt material eyes? You're trying to put everything in seeing. Can you show me God? Can you show me life after death? Seeing is not the way for experiencing everything. You can only experience certain things with seeing. If it's too bright, you can't see it. If it's too close to your eye, you can't see it. If it's behind your head, you can't see it. If there's not enough light, you can't see. If it's in the past, you can't see. If it's in the future, you can't. So this seeing power is limited. But for experiencing things beyond the senses and the processes, you hear from higher authorities, and if you perform devotional service, then you can understand. So that's not seeing. Shouldn't put so much faith just in these eyes. They're limited. Shabda Brahman. Shabda means hearing. Shruti. The Vedas are to be heard. And when they're heard from the proper sources, in the submissive way, combined with devotional service, then we can understand. It becomes clear. And sometimes they say, when you talk to people about reincarnation, they say, well, I don't believe it because nobody's ever come back. They die and then they go away. Never see them again, so there's no proof. Well, Narad Muni's proof. So many proofs, but Narad Muni is very explicit because he came back and he told about his different lives. But there is a degree of faith required because of our limited situation. But for those who are on higher levels, it's not a question of faith, it's a question of day-to-day activities. As we mentioned, the demigods and higher beings, they know that this soul left this body. Yes, he was formerly this, and now he's here and he's acting here. He's in a different body. experience that even in this realm. That when the child goes away from home, so people, they say, what happened to the child? The child's, say, no, the child still exists. Now he's in a different country, he has a different body. He does have a different body, that's a fact. Body's not a little baby's body, it's a grown body. He's doing different. So if someone locally where the baby was gone, they say, well, how can I be sure this is the same person? So someone else has higher technology. They go, yes, here we have a video of when the baby went out of the country. Someone took a video. Here's the passport of the baby picture. And the person gives testimony. They went there, then they entered. Sure. We like to see videos of everything. We think that, we believe that if we see it on CNN, we're accustomed to trying to see everything. Otherwise we have a hard time believing. Child has to believe many things just on whatever the parents say. Child can't prove or disprove things. It doesn't have the capacity, can't conceive of everything. So just has to believe in faith. And if the parents tell the truth, then the child gets properly educated. Fortunately, we have great personalities like Lord Krishna, Asita, Devala, Vyasa, Swami, Chaiva, Bhuvi, great sages whose lifespans are millions and billions of years. Lord Brahma lives. Lord Brahma lives 311 trillion years. So we shouldn't just rely on our own limited physical experience. Transcendental knowledge is not received that way. It seems mysterious and beyond our comprehension. And it is, because we're not using the proper senses, but when one practices devotional service and hears, it makes perfect sense. In fact, Krishna gives vision. Krishna gives the realization. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam enamam priyantate. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. In other words, Krishna gives the realization, he gives the vision, he gives the faith, he gives the buddhi, the intelligence. What to so many scientists, they can't appreciate that there's a living force within the body that's not material, that transcends the body. They can't get it. Even though they they're good at physics and they're good at biology and mathematics. It goes beyond their intelligence. Their intelligence can't understand it. Because they're not taking the right process. In other words, it's transcendental knowledge. It's mysterious, and it will always remain mysterious and not understandable unless one takes up the process. Process is devotional service. Devotional service to Krishna is the process. That's the password, so to speak. If you don't know your password, you can't get into the computer, you can't. There's so much in the computer, there's music, there's talks, there's so many different things. But if you don't know the password, you're blocked. You have to know the password. So the password for unlocking all this transcendental knowledge is devotional service. One practices devotional service, everything becomes revealed. The soul, the super soul, the spiritual world, it's all there in the hearing. Hearing and devotional service. So that's the process. Go on performing devotional service, sadhana bhakti, chanting and hearing, all these activities, taking prasadam, and go on hearing transcendental knowledge, and it will be revealed, it will be unlocked, it will be able to understand. Krishna says, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me. So we'll read some of the purport. As described above, it is very difficult for a person who is too materially affected to understand the personal nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Why? Because a materially absorbed person is covered. They're blocked. They don't have the password. They can't open the secrets, the computer, everything that's in there. So much in there. For them it's blocked. For them, even if they try to understand, it's like they can look at the computer this way, that way, from the front, from the back. They can get a microscope, try to look in the computer. They can take it apart, look at it from the back, from underneath. This doesn't work. It's like a person who tries to taste honey in a jar. He's licking the outside of the bottle of the honey. He sees it inside. Someone's told him, there's honey. It's very sweet. It's in the bottle. So he's licking the bottle. I've been licking this bottle for 2 years. I'm not getting any taste. No taste. The taste, you have to open the top and then take. There's a procedure to get the taste. Unlock the secrets. And the secrets is here. It's by devotional service. Take refuge in Krishna. Then all the secrets of reincarnation, transmigration of the soul, the spiritual world, past lives. Everybody's had millions of past lives. But we can't remember what we were in our past life. But even in this life, we've had many different past lives in this lifetime. Who can say what their body, what their life was when they were in the womb? Anyone remember what they did when they were in their womb? What did you do on the 4th day after conception? What were you doing? I can't remember. But it's sure that we all were living, we all had bodies. And the bodies that we had inside the womb, they have photographs of the bodies, the embryo, and different. And if you compare the photographs of the embryo of the humans and that of the embryos of horses and dog, camels, fish, they look very similar. You can't tell which one's which. So we had different bodies, but we can't remember what we did. And if someone said, if you give me a large sum of money, I will review what you were doing when you're on your 4th and 5th day. I can give you moment by moment visual depiction of what you did. You'd say, it's not so important. Because it was a lower species, a little embryonic body, not very advanced consciousness. You know that it wasn't very advanced consciousness. It wasn't doing anything very important. What were you doing important? In the womb, nothing. The living entity is existing, but so many different bodies we've had in this lifetime, previous lifetimes. We don't need to try to review them and go back. It's a less important activity. Just like when you go to a doctor and you have a disease. So, doctor says, yes, you have a serious disease. And if you tell the doctor, so please tell me how I got the disease. Doctor says, it's not so easy to tell. And if you say, no, I must know. Doctor says, excuse me, but it may be of interest to you to know how you got the disease. But let me point out that the disease is very serious. And if you don't treat the disease now, and you'll die. So perhaps it's more important to treat the disease than to find out how you got it. That's intelligent. We don't need to spend so much time how we got in the material world, what we were in our previous lives. But the fact is, we're here now, and we have the disease of the material body and material consciousness, very serious. And if we treat it, then we can cure it. And the treatment is the same eternal treatment, this process of devotional service. It's eternal. Everyone can take up devotional service and achieve perfection. We've seen in our movement, many devotees have perfected their lives in just a few years, practicing, and then successfully leaving this body, absorbed in Krishna, going back to Godhead. That's a sign of success. And we appreciate, especially those who have taken Krishna consciousness from outside of India. We have some special appreciation in it because they were not born into it. They took to it later in life, and they succeeded, even in the difficult times. As we were hearing, the real test will be when the difficulties come. How we take shelter of Krishna. Continuing in the purport. Generally, people who are attached to the bodily conception of life are so absorbed in materialism that it is almost impossible for them to understand that there is a transcendental body which is imperishable, full of knowledge, and eternally blissful. In the materialistic concept, the body is perishable, full of ignorance, and completely miserable. Therefore, people in general keep the same bodily idea in mind when they are informed of the personal form of the Lord. Sometimes people say it's a question of belief. If you like to believe that there is heaven or the spiritual world, that's okay. I don't believe. But it's not just a question of belief. There is really a spiritual world. There are living beings there. But it's materialistically absorbed person can't get that experience, can't get that faith. Now someone will say it's just a question of faith. It's just a belief. There's no proof, no hard evidence, scientific evidence. No, there's scientific evidence. Many persons in the past have attained it, become purified. But that's the program. In order to experience the spiritual world, in order to experience the soul, so many things, one has to become purified. One has to get free from the disease of ignorance. Ignorance is blocking us from experiencing this transcendental reality, the spiritual world. Just because you're diseased doesn't mean everyone's diseased. Just because you can't see doesn't mean no one can. A blind person can't see. You can try to describe to him, but he can't see. So if he's very obstinate, he says, I don't believe you're seeing anything, you're just making it up. So a blind person can't see. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave. So we offer respects to the spiritual master for opening our eyes, for giving us sight, transcendental knowledge. And it's amazing, but through the transparent via media of Shastra, Chakshusha, seeing through the eyes of the scriptures. The scriptures are the Vedas, the Mata, Veda Mata, mother, and the spiritual master is the father. So the father and the mother, they give transcendental knowledge to the disciple. That's the process. And everything is revealed. Krishna says, when you have learned the knowledge by which nations is destroyed, then your knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. So it all becomes revealed. Now someone will say, but it's just your belief. No, it's not just belief, it's revelation. You can't say, because you can't perceive it, because someone else can't perceive it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, or that no one can perceive it. A transcendentally advanced person, he actually has realization of his eternality. He has realization of Krishna. To the inexperienced non-devotee, for example, he can't understand why are you paying your respects to some idols made of wood or metal. So this is a waste. You're wasting your time. You're idol worshipping. For him, the deity will always remain a piece of wood, because he doesn't know how to experience the deity. The deity is actually Krishna. There's examples of Krishna speaking and walking in the deity form. But the non-devotees, they don't believe it because of their materialistic coverings. They can't appreciate the subtleties. Continuing in the purport. For such materialistic men, the form of the gigantic material manifestation is supreme. Consequently, they consider the supreme to be impersonal. And because they are too materially absorbed, the conception of retaining the personality after liberation from matter frightens them. And they are informed that spiritual life is also individual and personal. They become afraid of becoming persons again. And so they naturally prefer a kind of merging into the impersonal void. So the impersonal, the atheists don't believe in soul or God or anything. But then there's another type of person. They do believe in something supreme, but they believe that everything is impersonal. That the absolute truth is without any form, without any personality. They're afraid to keep their identity, so they want to just merge, become part of the Supreme. It's their impersonalness. That's what's behind their view, is they're afraid of being persons again. They have bad experience. That in this lifetime they've had so many personal experiences and they've been unpleasant. But we can see that we like personal relationships, but in the material world, sometimes they turn out to be sour. They turn out to be unpleasant. But the spiritual world has personal relationships without the negatives, without the death, without the separation, without cheating and exploitation. Pure. And we get an experience of that in the relationship with Krishna's devotees, especially the spiritual master. That relationship is so important because it's completely free from any tinge of exploitation, and through the transparent via media of the spiritual master, one is able to enter into the spiritual world and experience Krishna, Krishna's associates. When we hear about Krishna's pastimes from authorized scriptures, those pastimes are actually, they're going on, they're happening. It's not that they're in the past, this is just a historical record. They're eternal, Nitya Lila. And one can participate in them. In the material world, there is past, present, and future. So, when something is in the past, you can't relive it. We try to relive it by remembering or by seeing a video of it or something. But you can't actually experience it in full. But in the spiritual world, because everything is eternally present, nothing's in the past, it's accessible. You can, and it's live. You can participate in it. So, are there any questions? Some of these points.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Should we think about that as a happy moment. How much that is possible on our level, at least at my level, because we are going to a spiritual place to see Krishna. And materialists, when they think of that, they are avoiding it. But should we every day think of it, or does it come naturally with our advancement? That assurance and happiness about the transition.
Well, it is said that one who's very advanced, he lives life thinking that this may be his last moment. And that's for one who's spiritually advanced, he thinks this may be my last moment. But for one who's materially advanced, he thinks, I'm going to live forever in this material world. I'll never die. So it depends where you are. If you're on this high spiritual platform, then you know, padam yad vipadam natejam, this material world is a dangerous place. We're eternal, but the body's not eternal. And we're going to have to give up this body today or tomorrow. And we don't know. Heart attacks are happening. Car accidents are happening. So we don't know when we'll have to give up this body. So it's good to be prepared to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. But that's automatically done if one learns the science of Bhakti Yoga. Just practice Bhakti Yoga every day. That way, if death comes during Mangal Arati, then you go back to Godhead. If death comes during Prasadam, go back to Godhead. If death comes while you're on Sankirtan distributing books, go back to Godhead. It doesn't matter, therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes for the different yogis, they have to leave at a certain time when the sun is in the northern, in the light, passing in the Uttarayana. And then they don't come back again, or they go. But for a devotee, it doesn't matter. Because his life, he's learned how to engage 24 hours a day in devotional service. It's not that he puts on his clothes and then he's engaged in devotional service. At the other time he's not. Even the resting for a devotee is part of devotional service. He's resting the body, that's also devotional service. So this is the science we're learning, how to keep engaged 24 hours a day in devotional service. Smartavyam satatam Vishnu Vishnurtavyo najatuja. Should always remember Krishna and never forget him. Those are the two main businesses. And we have that program. That's why we start early in the morning, so that we don't get too much attached to the mode of ignorance. If we stay in the mode of ignorance and we sleep at the wrong times, more than required, then our spiritual life is impeded. So this is the science. Prabhupada taught us the science is to wake up early and during the Brahma Muhurta period you chant take bath, you hear Srimad Bhagavatam. And during the day you go out and you give Krishna consciousness to others. And in the evening again you come back and you hear Bhagavad Gita, again see the deity, and then take some rest. So it's a science. This science makes it very easy to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. We see where this is going on, where this program is followed. Many people come to take shelter of this Krishna consciousness because it's so easy and so nice. Therefore we try to establish centers, temples, where people can come and experience this lifestyle in that systematic way. Otherwise, one can do it on his own, but it's more difficult. It's like, you might get, if you have a disease, a serious disease, you might be able to get cured at home. But if you go to the hospital, where there's expert physicians, and they have the proper medical treatment, and the medicines, and the beds, and everything's kept antiseptic. You can try at home, but by yourself, it's more difficult. So that's why we have these. Temples are so important, centers. Thank you for that question.